mashallah, weekend time. We could have been spending the time anywhere else, but we are in the masjid, in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, populating the masjid and trying to learn about amal that would get us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever we get a chance to do something good, whenever we get a chance to stay away from evil, we should do shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when we do shukr of the gifts that Allah has given us, then Allah increases the gifts. And sometimes when we take the gifts we have for granted, then Allah takes away the gifts. So today we have come here together to discuss about Zakat. And this is a very important pillar of Islam. So what we will try to do, inshallah, the way we will go through this session is we'll talk about Zakat itself being a pillar of Islam. We will discuss, inshallah, who needs to give Zakat. Then and once we have figured out who needs to give Zakat, then how do we calculate it? What is nisab? What are zakatable assets? What are liabilities that I can subtract? And then once we have that figured out of how much zakat do we owe, then who can I give this zakat to? And then inshallah we'll also talk about zakat on investments, some modern investments available, stocks, 401k, IRA, crypto, inshallah. And the way we would like to probably do it is because there is a decent amount of material and slides, and I've tried to cover all the nuances in the slides itself. So we'll first go through the slides, and then inshallah we'll do Q&A. And then inshallah I'll try to address, and if needed, I can stay after Isha if somebody has questions as well, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about zakat in the Quran a lot. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in Surah Baqarah, وَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم مِّنْ خَيْرٍ تَجِدُوهُ عِندَ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. Establish prayer and pay zakat. And whatever good you send forth for yourselves, you will certainly find its reward with Allah. And Allah is all seeing of what you do. And this is a very recurring theme in the Quran. There are a lot of times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about establishing salah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions paying zakat. Salah and zakat are very mentioned together many times. In another place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّ صَلَاتَكَ سَكُونًا لَهُمْ وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. To take, O Muhammad, from their wealth a charity by which you purify them and cause them to increase, and invoke Allah's blessings upon them. Indeed, your invocations are reassurance for them, and Allah is hearing and knowing. So the zakat has two aspects to it. One is purification aspect. That's why we say tazkiyah. One is tazkiyah of our money. One is tazkiyah of our soul, purification of the soul. So zakat is a way to purify the money that we have, the wealth that we have. And it also has another meaning of increase. And this is where, sometimes our logic, our math seems to go against it. Somebody has $100, they lend it on interest, they get $3, $4 more back. So now math says, I had $100 to start with, and I got $3, $4, whatever, more back. So my wealth increased. It's now $104. And if somebody has $100 and he gives zakat of 2.5, assuming you have done the calculations. So math tells us 100 minus 2.5, 97.5. So I have less than what I started with. And this is something I would like to invite everybody to do, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, when I started my job first time as well, a close relative of mine told me that don't shortchange zakat. Make sure to do it completely, and you will see your wealth increase. So I actually did that, and I would request everyone that you also do that. Start a sheet if you don't already have one. Do the nisab calculations every year. Do our best to give zakat. And then do a graph of every year. 25, 26, 27, 28. Every year, inshallah, Allah will, inshallah, increase more. One is increase in number, and one is increase in barakah. So somebody has $5,000 income, but he ends up needing $6,000 to sustain himself. So he is $1,000 in the red. Somebody has $3,000 income, but his needs are taken care of in $2,000. So he earns less, but his needs are getting taken care of, and he's in the positive. So Allah purifies our wealth. Allah also increases the wealth. And it comes the hadith, you might have heard this many times. قال عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بني الإسلام على خمس شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة والحج وصوم رمضان. That Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Islam is based on 5 principles, 5 pillars, to testify that no one has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah sallallahu. To offer zakat, to offer salah, to pay zakat, to perform hajj, and to fast during the month of Ramadan. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave an example of a tent, the center pillar of which is iman, shahada, iman. If the center pillar is not there of a tent, then the tent cannot be established. And now we have to also make sure that we are also establishing the 4 pillars of it. Sometimes we see, based on our nature and our upbringing, for some people it is easier to offer salah, but hard to spend from our money. What do you mean I have to spend from my money? I spend this with my talent, with my hard work. Why do I have to give this away? And sometimes we see that it is easier for some people to spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but harder to perform hajj, harder to go to perform salah and fast. So we have to establish all of them. These all are obligatory. So we have to build our level of deen in our lives, that we are establishing all 5 pillars completely. And then even more, hopefully, Ramadan month is close by, and the virtues of reward will be increased. Nawafil will be rewarded like fard. 1 fard will be rewarded like 70 fard. So we should do even more. But at the very least, we should make sure that I am doing my best to establish the pillars of Islam. It sounds very basic, but a lot of times we have negligence, we have shortcomings in this. So this actually, hopefully this might not be a question that people need to answer, but this actually does come up. Sometimes people ask, I have $100,000 in income, but I have so much expenses that after I'm barely surviving. So now how do I give zakat? So zakat is different from income tax. Income tax, they will charge you and cut from your paycheck, before it even hits your bank. So zakat is not like income tax, and it should not be treated like a tax. In tax, we try to, of course, in legal ways, try to figure out more and more deductions. How do I minimize my tax liability? We hire professionals to help figure out how do I pay the least amount of tax possible. But zakat should not be approached like a tax. Zakat is a worship. One time, one Sahabi, during the time of Rasulullah, there used to be a zakat collector assigned. And he would come, he would audit the assets of people, and they'll say, okay, this is how much zakat you have to give. So one Sahabi said that, I never had this opportunity that the delegate of Rasulullah would come and review and tell me how much. So he wanted to give more, I forget how much it was, but like some animal, but he wanted to give a better animal. And the zakat collector said, I am only authorized to collect what I can collect. I cannot take more. If you want to give more, go and take permission from Rasulullah. So he's going there, and he's, the story we might have heard. So that was the attitude with which Sahaba radiallahu anhu approached zakat. So if we get the opportunity that Allah has given us wealth, we should use this and treat it like an ibadah, because it is a worship. It is a worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So who needs to give zakat? For zakat to be obligatory, there are few conditions. That a person needs to be Muslim. If a person is not Muslim, then zakat doesn't come in that factor. There's a different system. So zakat is for the non-Muslim. He has to be free, a free person. Then he has to be baligh, which is Islamically mature. which it either is puberty or 15 years of age. Then a person is considered baligh, and he has to be sane. Because again, this is worship, so if the person is not baligh yet, then salah is also not further on him. So same way, zakat is also the same. But and then after these 4 conditions, he also has to own a benchmark of wealth, not just any wealth. He has to own what's called nisab. And then there is also a condition of lunar year. So inshallah we'll talk about this nisab, what does nisab mean, and how do we calculate the lunar year, inshallah. If you do have questions, inshallah, do note them. We want to try to address them, inshallah, at the end. So what we will do when we calculate zakat is we will look at zakatable assets. So not all assets owned by us are zakatable. So we will inshallah talk about this as well. What assets are zakatable? So we'll take the calculation of zakat is that you take zakatable assets, then you subtract from it any short-term liabilities. You take your zakatable assets minus your short-term liabilities, and then if it is greater than equal to nisab. Now in nisab there are 2 benchmarks. One is either 20 dinar, 20 gold coins, comes to about 87.48 grams of gold. And this rate changes. So again, when we do this calculation, we have to see what's the current rate of gold. So last I checked, it was about $14,179. And the other benchmark that's available is 200 dirhams or silver coins, which comes to about 612.36 grams of silver, comes to around $1,600. If so, the zakatable assets minus the short-term liabilities have to be greater than the nisab benchmark, and a lunar year has to pass over it. The next condition is that a lunar year has to pass over it, and then we pay zakat. So that will be 2.5%. So whatever was the zakatable wealth we got, we have to do calculations. So a lot of times we see people do an approximation. Okay, I'm going to give $500 in zakat. But now, if it was actually more, then we didn't pay zakat all completely. That's why it is important that we calculate. It should not be an estimate. We should do our best to calculate. You can either 2.5% or divide by 40, same thing. So now how do we figure out the zakat calculation date? This is also a source of confusion. So let's take a scenario of a student who doesn't have any assets, right? So he doesn't have any assets, and now let's say 1st Muharram. So again, this date of zakat has to be based on lunar year. We cannot be based on solar calendar. It will be the lunar calendar date. So let's say on 1st Muharram 1445, this student graduates, he gets a job paying $6,000 a month. He pays off whatever loans he had, buys furniture, clothes, whatever, spends it everything, and now he did not have the benchmark of nisab. So even though he has income, zakat is still not further on. Next, let's say 1st Shawwal comes around, and now this is the day when he crosses nisab. Like his assets minus liabilities have now crossed nisab. So now we take note of this date, that this 1st Shawwal is now the time from which we will start calculating. Now next year 1st Shawwal will come, 1446. He will again take a snapshot on 1st Shawwal, the current assets he has or she has minus liabilities. Now assets and liabilities, all this number will keep changing. You have income coming, you have salary, paychecks, you are spending money. So there will always be ups and downs between the year. So the fluctuations between the year would not matter. Because if we try to calculate every single thing, then we basically will be doing calculations all year. Like this $1,000 came in January, and then this $1,000 came in February. So now this year will complete at this point. So scholars recommend we take a snapshot method, that once we know our date, from that date the next year again we will evaluate. If you started with more than nisab, and you now again the next year still have nisab, so you will take the snapshot. So now you might have $1,000 come in a day before, you might have spent $10,000 a day before. But the date has to be fixed. That's why we cannot be, like a lot of people will say Ramadan, it cannot be general month of Ramadan. It has to be a specific date that we do the calculations on. And now this date becomes the anniversary date for this person going forward. Now every year he has to take 1st Shawwal, and then do his calculations for first Shawwal. Now, the only exception scenario comes when, so again, actually next year again come first Shawwal 1447, he again takes a snapshot of current assets minus liabilities. So let's say previous year was 1,500, he'll pay 2.5%, $37.5. This year now it is $5,000, he'll pay $125. So you take a snapshot every year. Now the exception is that if, like I said, the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs will not be calculated, except in a scenario where the assets minus liabilities, the debts overpower his assets. So if his assets minus liabilities brings his net worth to zero, then now he is removed from the pool of zakat payers. So he's no longer part of the zakat payer pool, and he will start the process again of when he hits the nisab, and he will start calculating it again. Now, what often happens is, unless somebody knew about this from before, when you're just starting your work, often people don't know when they had hit the nisab. So we try to do our best guess if we know when we started working, when we think we got enough. A lot of people do use Ramadan to pay zakat because there's more rewards, but it doesn't have to be Ramadan. But whichever date we are finalizing, we should fix it. It should not be like, I have done, let's say, 1st of Ramadan, and I know I have a big expense coming up on the 9th, so I will move my zakat calculation date to 10th. We always fix it, and we'll always do calculations that day, inshallah. So like I said again, we are not trying to game the system here. We are, rather it's an opportunity for us to do worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now, what assets do we not include? Like I said, there are zakatable assets. So let's talk about assets that you won't include into zakat. So any items of personal use that a person has. So the house that you live in or the vehicle you drive. Now somebody might have $1 million house, somebody might have $100,000 or $200,000 house. Whatever the value might be, doesn't matter. If it's a house that you live in that is of your personal use, it is not going to be included in your zakatable assets. Same thing with vehicles. Somebody might be driving BMW, or somebody might be driving a Nissan Altima, doesn't matter. Whatever the value of the car is, if it's an item of personal use, then you don't include it. Similarly, personal items, household items. Similarly, jewelry, other than gold and silver. The gold and silver are treated separately. If somebody has gold or silver jewelry, then they should be included in zakat. But otherwise, if somebody has diamond, platinum, pearls, ruby, sapphire, these are, or any precious metals, these are not included in zakat calculation. If somebody has a rental property, then if the intention is seen for this, right? Why did you buy this property? If you bought this to rent it out, then the value of the property is not zakatable. But the rent that you're going to get from your property, that will be part of your cash flow. And when you do the asset calculation, that will be, you'll take a snapshot, and then whatever rent you still have, you'll include those cash. But this does not include people who are buying it to resell. So if, let's say, the business of a person is that he buys and sells properties, so now this is trade merchandise. This is trading inventory. So that's treated separately. But if you have somebody using it for personal use, then it's not zakatable. Similarly, somebody has a business. Let's say somebody has a factory, they manufacture garments, t-shirts. So now they might have sewing machines, they might have a warehouse to store. So these fixed business assets are not zakatable, but any raw material that a person has that will eventually be sold to a customer, the value of those will be zakatable. Also, any finished products, you look at the current market value of them, and those will also be zakatable. So, like I said, the general rule is personal items, except, like I said, gold jewelry and silver jewelry, those will still be included. So now, what is zakatable assets? Zakatable assets are those which have a potential for growth, or it's acquired for resale, and you will look at current market value. So let's say somebody bought gold when it was when it was worth $1,000, but now that value has increased. Now it's $5,000. So you look at current market value, that if I go and sell this gold, what will I get? That's the amount you're going to include. And it could be worked the other way around. Somebody bought something expensive at 10,000, now the value of that thing has dropped. You're always going to look at the current market value of that asset when you're doing your calculation. So gold, silver jewelry, anything that has more than 50%, so sometimes you have mixed alloys, you don't have 24 karat golds. So if something is more than 12 karat of gold, then that's included in gold. And you will look at what's the current market value. So something is 18 karat gold, you will look at the 18 karat gold market value. 22 karat gold, you get 22 karat gold market value. Same thing for silver. Similarly, any retirement accounts, investment accounts, we'll have a little bit more detail there, so I'll talk about that separately. Any rents we have received, dividends we have received, all that is cash flow. Again, you take a snapshot, if it's part of your bank account or it's a part of your cash that you hold, you include them. Any receivables, that transactions are already completed. You just have to get it. So let's say I've already sold $10,000 worth of shirts. I just haven't received the money yet. The transaction is done. So you will also include your receivables, invoices that are already due. If there is a tax return that you know already that's coming, you just haven't filed taxes, that will also be included. Like I said, trade, merchandise, raw materials, you look at market price. So no matter what do you sell it for, you look at the current market value. Yes. Personal receivables has a little bit of an extra nuance to it. So that's a good question, Jazakallah, for highlighting. So let's say I lent somebody $1,000, right? Now I don't have this in my possession. Now what the scholars say is that if you expect that you will get it back, it is a loan that is a loan that you expect to receive back, then you should include it. If it is a loan that you don't expect to receive back, this person has not been paying you back, and now you've kind of lost hope that you'll get it back, then you don't include it. And in such cases, let's say if it's a larger amount, you could delay the payment of zakat until you get it, but you should still include it in your calculations, and then you give it for the delta time that. But yes, if something is a receivable that this person, like somebody might have a pending case, now we don't know that you're actually going to receive it, so don't include that. But I have lent somebody money as a qarz hasana, and I expect that this person is going to return. Still my asset, I have given that person, I'm helping that person, and that's why it's true help, and that's why it sounds a little harsh, but there is no personal gain out when we do qarz hasana. We are doing it only to help our brothers, only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, brother. Yeah, so like I said, if you had lost hope already of getting it back, then you don't include it. But when you actually receive it, then you will include it as any cash. I can get confirmation, inshallah, maybe remind me, but my understanding is that if it was a receivable that you expected to receive, like sometimes there's a pending case going on for a long time, if it goes in your favor, you might get something, but that case drags and drags for years. Now you don't know if you're going to get paid, so now you don't include. But so if it's not for sure, my understanding is you don't include it, but remind me, inshallah, I'll check and let you know, inshallah. There are some other special cases of zakatable assets, and these usually don't apply nowadays in model world, so that's why I've not gone into detail. Like somebody has livestock, somebody has agriculture produce, you're a farmer, somebody has mine, somebody found a buried treasure. They are treated differently. So I didn't want to go into those details because generally it doesn't apply. But they are included if somebody has these scenarios, inshallah we can discuss or consult a scholar. So now, what liabilities can we subtract from our zakatable assets? So sometimes we have this misconception that I have a loan on a house, and my house loan is $500,000. So I have assets, for example, of $200,000, but because I have a $500,000 loan, I don't have to give zakat. So that's not actually the case, because we have set up a payment system, and we are not going to make the whole payment of the whole loan. So the scholars are recommending that we only deduct what we are going to pay in the next 1 year. So next 12 months, you can include those payments in deductions. So if it's a halal mortgage, and again, hopefully it's not an interest-based mortgage. If it's an interest-based mortgage, then we don't include the interest component of the payment. We try to do the tawbah and try to get out of it, inshallah. But if somebody has that and got stuck in it, then we cannot include the interest component of it in the deduction, only the principal payments. Same thing for car loans, hopefully again 0% interest. Then we can, only the principal amounts we can we can deduct for the next 12 months. We cannot deduct the complete loan amount. And actually some scholars actually don't like that we even deduct that. They're saying that if you have assets, then pay off your loan first. It's not a good idea to stay in loan. Although this culture in the United States, sometimes we see brothers, they say, what are you talking about, pay off your mortgage? You never pay off your mortgage. Once that mortgage gets paid, then you start another loan. So that's the idea that a lot of people live in this country. But it's not and actually, there is a movement going on in general, not Islamic world, general. People are talking about having zero debt. And that's like a life goal, to not have debt. And for people who have no debt, if you talk to them, they will tell you that this is the, now you're no longer, basically, even if you wanted to do something else with your life, you cannot, because you have all these payments lined up. You have, sofa is on loan, and furniture is on loan, everything is on loan. So now even if somebody wanted to, they can't get out of it. So if somebody has an opportunity to get into a debt-free life, do explore that. But again, somebody like, that is a separate discussion. Hopefully, maybe we'll do a personal finance discussion separately. Ji. Only zakatable assets. So we don't include any non-zakatable assets in our calculation. Only zakatable assets and short-term liabilities. Now somebody is on rent, then they cannot subtract 12 months of rent, because this is not a loan. It's not you don't know, you could change, your situation could change. You can only deduct your current month rent. If somebody is using credit cards, again, hopefully we are paying off. Interest is a very big thing, and it is very normalized in this country, and we should basically make our best effort that we don't get involved in any interest-based transactions. But if somebody has credit card debt, pay in full. So that is already a thing that you have purchased. It's not a future purchase. It's not a future loan. You have to pay it off. So whatever you have, when you take the snapshot, whatever is your current credit card total balance, you include that as well. Yes, in the next 12, like in the next lunar year, 12 months, whatever payments you're going to make, yes, you can deduct. Yes, yeah. Suppose somebody has assets of only $10,000 and you have loans in the next 1 year of 7,000, then you 10,000 minus 7,000, that's 3,000, and you 2.5% of that. Yeah, you can. Yeah, so that's but like I said, not interest, right, based. Yeah, so the gold, yes, even if it's jewelry, actually there is a hadith about it as well. Rasulullah asked Azwaj Mutahharat, his one of the wives, they had jewelry on, and she said, do you pay zakat on this? There's a question, and he said, no, I didn't know about that. So do you want that this is burned in the fire? So yes, to answer your question, zakat should be included. Now, to be clarified, there are scholars who have a different opinion, right? I'm not saying that there are not, but what I would suggest is that if you follow a scholarly opinion, then follow that scholarly opinion completely. What we should not do is fatwa shopping, right? Like when we get all the leniencies from different opinions, and because there's a whole framework that has to go with it. Like for example, zakat. If once you treat it like an ibadah, now intention is first. So there's relation. But yes, to answer your question, sorry for the long answer, but yes, you should include gold and silver jewelry as well, because they are inherently currencies. They are part of they are currency, and they are so they are not included in a personal usage. Yeah. Yeah, I understand your question, but yeah, the scholars recommend that because even if you are wearing it every day, it's not because it, like I said, it inherently is currency. Like for example, let's say, and actually people do this in India, for example, they make a necklace out of cash, right, on marriages, and they wear it. So if I put notes in a string and I wear it, and I say this is my jewelry, right? So that same kind of concept, that this is also currency. Even though we have given it value, right? We treat it precious like gold. So we treat it like a jewelry as well, but they are inherently currency. So if it's a loan versus it's a future expense, so we don't subtract future expenses. The way we are not adding future income, like tomorrow, the salary that you haven't received for next month, right? Because you haven't worked the next month. You might not receive next month's salary. So the same way, we don't include future expenses. But if it's a loan, I'm just saying the categorization, depending on the payment, if it's a loan, then you include it. But if it's just a future expense, then you don't include it. Like for example, right? Let's say I have intention to go for Hajj, right? So I have put aside $10,000 to go for Hajj. So now, even though I have made that intention, I put it, but still I own this. I could change my intention anytime. I might not be able to go. I might not go for next 2-3 years. So you still include that money until you make the payment and you buy a package to go for Hajj, and now the transaction is done. Now that will not be included. But before that, even if you have earmarked something for something, like people will earmark something for my child's marriage, or I'll earmark something that, oh, this is for this. But until you actually spend it, you could anytime change your intention. So you include all your assets like that. Yeah, future, unless it's a loan, yeah, you don't include future expenses. So now the question happens, like, because there is two different benchmarks, gold and silver, and during the time of Rasulullah both used to be same. Like it used to be similarly priced. But now silver price is different. Silver is lagging behind. Gold has gone up way more. And like I said earlier, silver is about $1,600 now, and gold is about $14,000. So there's a big difference. So now which one to use as the benchmark? So if somebody has this delta amount, right? That somebody, let's say, has, like you mentioned that example, 10,000 minus 7,000, now you have $3,000. So $3,000 is between the silver and the gold nisab, that the area. So now which one to include? So if somebody has no other zakatable assets, only one type of asset, like somebody has only gold, then you can use the gold nisab. If somebody has only silver, then you can use the silver nisab. Now if you have, and this will not happen to a lot of people, but mostly people will fall in category where you have multiple categories of assets. It's not just one single asset. And the earth scholars recommend that it is better to be a giver. So you take the silver nisab, the person who gives, the hand that gives is better than the hand that takes. So I would want that I should be in the giver category rather than a taker category. So we should use silver so that more people can be givers. But if somebody has only gold, like sometimes some women, they have only gold, and that's all the assets they have, then they could use the gold nisab as well. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, if you are more than 14,000, then it's definitely you have to do. But when you are between 1,600 and 14,000, now you're in between these two, and what scholars are recommending is that we should take the silver nisab so that we can be a giver. But that's the gray area in between, because, but yeah, you will add up all the assets. So it's not individually. So let's say somebody has 5,000 worth of gold, you have 5,000 worth of cash, you have 10,000 in stocks. So you add all the assets, now it's $20,000. So now it's more. So you're not including only one asset type. All your zakatable assets should be more than one of these. Total amount. Yes. If it's a zakatable asset, so yeah, zakatable assets minus liabilities greater than 2.5%. Then greater than nisab, then 2.5% of that. So that previous slide that I was talking about the short-term liabilities, like the current, like whatever you already expended, that is already taken care of because that's no longer in your bank. You already spent. But if it's a credit card bill, if it's a mortgage payment, it's a loan for the next 12 months, those can be deducted. All 20,000, yeah. No, all of them, yes. So I get like, like income tax, they have a staged percentage, right? If you are more than you do this, but this will be the complete amount. If you are, basically this is a benchmark of wealth. Like this is a wealthy person, so wealthy person has to give zakat on his assets. There is the short-term liabilities that you can deduct, yes. Like I said, like if it's a future expense, right, it's an expense. So like we don't, like because you, inshallah, you also will have a future income, right, inshallah. So we don't include future income, the same way we don't include future expense, unless it's a loan. But it is like you have already signed up. That's actually a good point. You have already signed that I am going to make the payment, and you don't have a wait. Like what happens if you, let's say you take your child out of the school? Let's discuss this inshallah afterwards. Let's talk about it inshallah. I think there is some, because like for example, like if my child goes to Al-Falah, right, but 6 months down the line I move, I could take my child out. I might just miss my registration fees, but they won't make me pay future payments. But let's talk about it separately inshallah. So now, once we have figured out the zakat, who do I give zakat to, right? We cannot give zakat to anybody we want. There are specific categories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has called out, that these are the people who can be given zakat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in Surah Tawbah, إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة القلوب وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل فريضة من الله والله عليم حكيم. So zakat is only for the fuqara and the masakin, the poor, the needy, and the amilin, the ones who are employed to administer it. The mu'allafat al-qulub, those whose hearts are to be attracted to faith, and the riqab, for freeing of slaves, fi sabilillah, in Allah's path, and ibn sabil, for needy travelers. So let's talk about this a little bit, but yeah, this is an obligation from Allah, and Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. So these are the 8 categories who can be given zakat. This is Surah Tawbah, verse 60. So who is a faqir? So faqir is a poor person who has enough for basic needs but does not possess nisab. So that example that we were talking about before, like somebody has $10,000, but then he has expenses of, let's say, let's say his total asset minus liabilities is only $1,000. It's less than silver nisab. So now he is a poor person. He is not a wealthy person. Like I said, nisab is a benchmark of wealth. So if somebody doesn't have nisab, then he is a poor person. So zakat can be given to a poor person. Or masakin, the needy. They are so needy, they are extremely needy that even the basic needs are not being met. And sometimes scholars actually flip this. Like they say fuqara are the ones whose basic needs are not met, and masakin are the ones who are basic. But either way, the definition is that either your basic needs are not met completely, or your basic needs are met, but you don't have enough for nisab, then you're still a poor person. Al-amilin, these are the ones who are employed to administer it. So like I said, during the time of Rasulullah, this was a job that was given to a specific assigned person. And this is, the scholars explain, exclusive to a zakat collector appointed by an Islamic head of state, not unnecessarily expanded to other places. Then mu'allafatul qulub, these are those whose hearts are to be attracted to the faith. They recently accepted Islam's heart were not fully settled. The Rasulullah gave such person zakat as well. to get their hearts closed. But then later on in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu said that this was only applicable that during the time of Rasulullah. Now Islam was still didn't have a strong hold yet. Now, alhamdulillah, Islam has been established. We don't need to do this anymore. So during the time of Khulafa, then this category was stopped. They would not give zakat to them. Some jurists, based on this, believe that this category is completely suspended. But some jurists will also say that it is suspended right now, but in future, if a similar situation happens, it could be utilized. They usually don't fall in the amilin category. They fall in usually a category of a something called a wakil, like an agent, right? Let's say I need $100,000 to be transported somewhere. I cannot go myself, so I employ somebody to go and transport it on my behalf. So now he's my agent. He's delegated this responsibility, and then for that work I give him money. So like this is a topic to understand as well, that once the zakat is received, like then this person is now the owner. He could choose to do different things. Now he could choose to pay somebody who helped him receive zakat. But in general, what organizations should do, and I have a separate discussion on this, is not to include operational expenses on zakat. Like other payments, they could, because they have expenses, they should subtract it from other categories. Zakat should not be, you should not exclude operational expenses from zakat. We should ask, like this should, because sometimes we we should ask what is your operational expense, do you subtract it? And actually scholars, what they will say is, like say they say 5% for example, and you actually need to give $100, then you give 105, like similar to like how time you have to do a credit card payment, they will charge you a fee on top. So you want to make sure that your zakat has to reach a needy category, right? So if you are giving to an organization that takes operations, so you ask them what the percentage, give them extra. And that's why I'll talk about this a little bit inshallah in the future slide. And then our riqab for freeing of slaves, gharimin, those in debt. So this is, it has to be context, has to be understood. It cannot be like I have $200,000 in asset, but I have a $500,000 house loan, so now I am in debt, so I can take zakat. That's not what it means. This is, like I said, the short-term liabilities discussion. If somebody has zakatable assets, then they need to sell off this to pay the debt first. And this sometimes happens, like we have sometimes people who will take zakat from, but even though they have assets of their own. This actually happened to somebody we knew back in India. They used to take zakat every year and everybody used to give zakat to that person. And then when this person passed away, then the discussion of inheritance came through. Found out, oh, this person has a lot of gold and they were taking zakat all this time. So then the scholars say that all the people who have paid them zakat, this was not an eligible recipient. You need to give them back zakat first and then you can distribute inheritance afterwards. So this is actually an important category. I'll talk about this. I mean, we need to do some due diligence. We don't go and say, show me your bank account statement kind of thing, but we need to make sure that the people who are giving zakat is actually eligible people. Ibn Sabil, needy travelers who might have assets back home, but now they don't have access to those assets anymore. They are traveling. This often doesn't happen as much nowadays because with globalization, you have access to your assets, even if you are in a different country. Potentially could apply for scenarios like refugees. They had assets of their own back home. Now they cannot go back. They don't have access to those assets anymore. So now they are poor here, kind of thing. So, but they are needy travelers. So zakat cannot be given to certain people, right? Zakat cannot be given to descendants of Rasulullah. So Banu Hashim cannot be given zakat. You cannot give zakat to a masjid, school, university, organization. They are, like I was saying, a delegate. They have to then go ahead and give zakat to another person. So like I said, a madrasa or a masjid, they will not take zakat, but a poor student who studies there could take zakat. So when you are donating, let's say to a madrasa or to an organization, you're not making them the owner. you are deputing them to give zakat to somebody else. We should ask them, what are your operation, like do you subtract operational expense? This actually came, and I don't want to name names, but recently this is being, so people who are interested can look it up. Like people raised a lot of money for a certain cause and then found out that the speaker who was raising took 30% of it, out of it. And he said he transferred it to another cause, but again, that's not what they were raised for, right? So we should do some due diligence of what, and that's why we should donate to an organization that we know and we trust. We know people involved in there who are diligent about it. Because like I said, this is, if it's an optional voluntary payment, then even if let's say it was for a different cause, it's fine as long as it was for a good cause. But if it's zakat and it did not reach the right recipient, then that zakat remained unpaid, right? We don't even know about it, that it is unpaid. So we should do some due diligence. Construction projects, like we can't make a community hall an owner, right? Because zakat has to be made an owner, even though it's a general purpose use, everybody is benefiting from it. So, but you have to make somebody an owner. You cannot give zakat to your own spouse. You cannot give zakat to your parents, grandparents, either up with the lineage or down, like children, grandchildren. They should be helped with other than zakat. So, same thing with non-Muslims. They should be helped with other than zakat, but we don't give zakat to non-Muslims. Siblings, yeah, actually they are relatives who are, if they are in need, let's say they are the needy or the poor category, then actually they have a bigger right. We should give them zakat first, but not immediate parents and down, and not spouse. Non-Muslims, public utility projects, like I said, somebody is making a road, so we put money in there. That is not something, because there is no owner for this. Zakat needs an owner. Some other miscellaneous notes is that zakat is only valid if the recipient is made owner of the amount, right? And we cannot impose conditions on this. So for example, I say, I'm giving you zakat, but you can only spend it for this, not for something else. Yeah, food is fine, like as long as you're making them the owner. It doesn't have to always be given in cash. Yeah, so there is some nuance there, but let's say people, we know everybody the poor people will need rice, they need grains. So you don't have to give them cash. As long as you make them owner of those, you give them you could not do something like you spread the dasarkhan and invited everybody to come eat. You cannot do that. But if you're giving them and making them the owner of that, and they can use it whenever they want, then that is okay. When giving money, before that, intention has to be made for zakat. Like if I already spent $1,000 on something, and I said, oh, I should have made intention. It's kind of like if I had made intention of, I did something else, like similar to salah also. We can't make an intention afterwards that no, my intention is different now. So our intention before giving zakat should be for zakat. It could be when we separate the money out, or it could be while we are giving it to the person, if the recipient has not consumed it yet. But yeah, we have to make the intention before giving. And then try out, like this is again, not just really from a fiqh perspective, just personally suggestion, that we try to find direct zakat recipients. And if we are, like we were saying earlier, if we are paying to an organization, ask, are they subtracting organization costs? If they don't reach the needy, then it's not completely fulfilled. So like in our area, and this is another thing, like for example, Atlanta, a lot of refugees have come here. If you go visit them, see their homes, you'll see there are so many people who have absolutely nothing. And they are now being, they are being helped by others in a intention to try to take them away from deen. So we try to identify deserving relatives. Relatives should be given first. The more closer, the more next needy locally. Sometimes what happens is, if I'm from India, I send it all back home. So now, what about the poor in America? Nobody's sending zakat to America. They're sending it to what is perceived to be a poor country. So we should figure out local needy people. And then if there are certain special circumstances to send overseas, we can. not like it will not count. Like, Pakistan had a flood, and now we want to help the people who lost everything, those kind of stuff. But like I said, we should identify deserving relatives, needy locally. We should give them. It should not be like we send all the zakat back home. And each adult is responsible for their own zakat. So the assets that I own, I'm responsible for my zakat. Whatever assets my wife owns, she's responsible for her zakat. Whatever assets my mother owns, she's responsible for her zakat. Now, I can give zakat on behalf of my mother. I can give zakat on behalf of my wife, but I have to talk and get permission first. Right? This is a conversation we need to have with our spouses. Often we have situations where the spouse might have assets, but they might not have an income. So the husband is giving zakat on behalf. But you need to have this conversation and because they need to make you basically their delegate. Like I said, the intention has to be made. So we say, I want to give zakat on your behalf, and we should give zakat on their behalf. But at the same time, they should know that this is their responsibility. Tomorrow, if we are not there, they still have the owner has to pay zakat. So we should take other relatives also. We can we can give zakat on behalf of them, but again get permission from them. An individual who is being giving zakat does not need to be told that this is zakat, right? You don't have to, because you don't want to embarrass somebody. You know that this person is needy. You do some diligence, but they can be given zakat. You don't have to tell them that this is from zakat. A lot of people get embarrassed. They don't want to take it if they know it's zakat. And you can prepay zakat. You can pay later as well. But the calculation has to be done on the zakat calculation date. So let's say I know I have to pay, for example, $1,000. Usually that's my amount. So now I could, and an needy person came to me earlier before, I could give them 500, let's say now, and then when I do the calculations, I have already given 500, so I can subtract it. So you can prepay them, you can delay them as well if for a specific need, but again, you should not delay it for no reason. And if we have not paid previous year's zakats properly, then we should do our best to do calculations of previous years as well. Like what was my assets last year, what was my liabilities last year, before years, all the time we had to pay zakat. If we didn't do, we should do our best estimates and guess and do a little bit extra so we don't have that pending on account. And if somebody has only gold or silver, so let's say like this happens a lot, somebody only has jewelry, no cash. So now how do I give zakat from it? This is actually a lot of times a situation that happens with ladies. So we could either sell some of the gold to give zakat. It sounds very hard that I sell the gold. But you could also delay it if you have cash flow coming in. You can pay it later. But as long as you have calculated it, you can pay it later, inshallah. What time is Azan? Isha is 8? Okay. So inshallah, let's talk about investments a little bit. So when we say investments, inshallah, we are talking about halal investments, right? If an investment is not halal, then we should do tawbah and then try to get out of it. And we basically we sell it, then what will the cash value include all of it? If it's a halal investment, then, and for people who might be interested, although that's a whole separate topic, like how to find a halal investment, there is a standard that scholars have come up with called AAOFI. It helps evaluate whether a company can be invested in, is it halal to invest in that company or not. But assuming that's a halal investment, you look at the intention at the time of purchase. Because there are two categories you will fall in. Either you are an investor or you are a trader. Let's say somebody buys a stock and the intention is to sell it immediately. I feel like somebody told me, oh, this company is doing well, so something's going to happen after the results. I'm going to, it's a little bit speculative. But if you have a investment window of less than 12 months, then basically you are a short-term profit-making trader. You're trading in that stock. You're not necessarily an investor. If you are a short-term profit-making trader, then you include 100% of the stock's value. So let's say you have 100 shares of a stock and the market value on the day of calculation is $100, then you will count $10,000 in your zakatable assets, in your list of zakatable assets. If you have a longer term window of more than 12 months, because you think that this company is going to grow and now you are an investor in this company. You are like a partner, right? You have a minority right in that company. So now because you are a long-term investor, you are a partner. It's similar to like a business. Not all assets owned by a business are zakatable. So the ideal thing is for every company stock we own, we look at how much assets this company owns is zakatable, how much assets the company owns is non-zakatable. But it's hard for normal people to do, especially if you have a lot of different stocks you're investing in. You might not even have the expertise to figure it out. So there is a proxy method that scholars have come up with. They evaluated 100 companies and then they looked at how much typically zakatable assets do companies have and how much non-zakatable assets. So there is a detailed paper on this. If somebody is interested, I can forward you that. But they had a percent of 40% of the prophecy value. So let's say you're taking 40%, then you have 100 shares, $100 is the current market value, that's $10,000. Well, you'll not include $10,000 because you're a long-term investor. You will take 40% of it, so you'll take 4,000. And actually, this was recently revised to 25%. There is a Mufti Faraz Adam from UK. They have an organization. They do a lot of research on this. So a good material if the people interested. So there is a 25 to 40% ratio. Some company might have more, some company might have less. In general, this is the average. So just for ease, to make it easier for people, this proxy number can be used if you're a long-term investor. If somebody has RSUs that are non-vested stocks, it's not vested yet. If you lose the job, you quit the job, you're not going to get that anymore. So that's future income. You will not include future income. So you only count vested stocks when including the values for investment. Now retirement accounts, 401k, IRAs. So there is regular 401ks, IRAs, there is Roth 401k, IRAs. The difference between them is one is pre-tax investments, one is post-tax investments. There are different opinions about what to do with this. And some of us might, who have been investing for a long time, they might have accumulated a decent amount of money here. It's important that so one opinion is that you include 100% of the market value. So whatever is the current market value of all the, for your 401k, you include that. That's one opinion. Another opinion is because you don't have open access to it, you cannot withdraw it completely. So what you will do is, if I were to liquidate this today, how much will I get? So usually in your brokerage accounts, you can go in and say, if I wanted to withdraw it all, there will be a penalty. There will be a 10% penalty, withdrawal penalty. You don't actually have to do it, but you have to calculate it. Take 10% penalty, then this, because if it was pre-tax, then there will be taxes that will kick in. That comes to about 35 to 50% of the value. If it's Roth, then there's only penalty, there's not that. So that opinion is that if you, and there is calculators usually in brokerage account, will tell you, if you liquidate everything, what would you get in hand? And you include that amount, that's the amount, because you chose to invest it here, you decided where to invest, in which stocks, which funds, and the intention is for growth. So it should not be that because I cannot withdraw completely, I will skip it, but we should take and calculate the withdrawal penalty. What can you actually withdraw? The other opinion is also because it's basically stocks. So, and you're a long-term investor in the stocks, so you can do the 25 to 40% calculation that we talked about earlier. If there is a cash component in it, and again, hopefully we're not doing bonds that are interest-based. And again, I'm just talking about it from a FIC perspective. I'm not giving personal finance decisions of what you should do with your money. But if it's cash, then you will look at what is the penalty to withdraw it. You will look at that. If it's a stock, you could use the 25 to 40% proxy value. Sometimes people have a lot of 401k amount and they don't have enough cash or assets to pay without withdrawing. So another opinion is that you do the calculation, you include it every year. When you retire and when you actually get access to the money, now you have to pay for the previous years. This is usually hard to keep track of, like you have to be very diligent to really do this. So usually 2 and 3 are a little bit more practical that you can use. But these are the opinions out there for retirement accounts. Now there are other retirement accounts like pensions, social security. There's like, for example, back in India, they have provident funds where you don't get a choice whether you want to invest or not. They are automatically deducted and you cannot opt out. You don't get to choose where they will be invested, right? So those things that you had no say in and you had no ownership, they basically were deducted automatically. You don't include them. And you only pay zakat on them when you, like social security, for example, you are contributing every month with your paycheck, but you don't include it because you had no say in them. You could not go and say, I don't want to do this. 401k, yes, you can say that I don't want to do this. Here you had no choice. So this category you will only pay for when you receive the money and not for the previous years, right? This is because it was taken without your say. And then if it's, we come to cryptocurrency, similar idea there. And again, when we talk about cryptocurrency, there are scholars who don't consider cryptocurrency halal, right? So again, if you follow that opinion, then you would not invest in cryptocurrency. And if you're not investing in cryptocurrency, then there's no talk of zakat on it. So, but there are scholars who have defined when can cryptocurrency be invested in. So if you are investing in crypto, then at the time of purchase, same category, are you doing it for short-term profit making? And I would go out and say that probably at least the things that we have seen, usually not many people even understand crypto. They are investing because somebody else told, oh, I bought it at 1,000, now it's at 5. So they have fear of missing out and they have to invest. But usually most people are profit makers, traders in crypto. They don't necessarily know what the coin is for, what was the business use case for it. So these are short-term traders, and short-term traders should, anything that you are trading in, like I said, if I have a business, I buy and sell gold, then gold is my tradable merchandise, right? I'll include that. If I am a seller of dates, then dates is my merchandise. Like if I buy and sell cars, then for anything for resale is part of trade merchandise. You will include 100% of the assets. If you are actually in that minority who actually understands the business use case of crypto and what it is for, but even in those scenarios, for example, Bitcoin is created as a payment mechanism. It's a digital currency. They still get counted in a currency. So even if you have a long-term vision, you don't plan to sell Bitcoin, you just want to hold. But because it's like a currency, it's a form, like it's like you have some amount in US dollars and some amount in rupees and some amount in pounds. You're going to include all your cash, doesn't matter the currency. If you have it in Bitcoin, that's also a form of currency that's actually accepted as a payment mechanism in multiple places. You'll include the 100% of the value on that day. Right? Again, that's why the fixing of the day is very important. So otherwise, one day it's 20% down, other is 20% up. And that's why the speculative nature is why some scholars recommend not investing in it. And that's why it might not be a great investment for you. So again, only for those people who actually invest. Then there are other categories of cryptocurrencies as well, like Ethereum can be a smart contract. So if you're actually investing because you feel like Ethereum is going to become a mechanism through which you will do smart contracts, there's a different ruling for it. If you are using it as a proof of ownership of an item, there's tokens that can be created. So let's say it's a proof of ownership of a real estate property. Then whatever asset, it is called an asset-backed token. So if it's backed by an asset, if that asset is zakatable, then this is also zakatable. If this asset that it is backing is not zakatable, it's not zakatable. So yeah, if you are in that category, if you have questions, I don't want to go into too much detail, you have time short. So that's the usually, like I said, most people will fall in the category of including all your 100% of your crypto asset current market value. So let's do a quick example, right? Again, this is just random numbers I made, right? So let's say on the day of your zakat calculation, you look at your bank account balance. In one bank account, I have $3,000. Now that $3,000 could have come one day before, it could have come 11 months before. Like I said, the fluctuations between are not taken care of, you're looking at snapshot. Second bank account I have, it has $5,000. And that's why you want to make a custom sheet for yourself, because you know how many accounts you have. You might have accounts in other countries. You want to list out all and then convert it into one currency to calculate. You might have cash on hand, cash in our pockets, in your wallets, under the mattress, whatever it might be. You need to include those as well. So let's say somebody has $500. Now somebody has investment in trading stocks, $10,000, you include that. So that's why it's important to do calculations. If you have long-term investment, then that can have that factor of 25 to 40% to do. So let's say $20,000 investment, but it's a long-term investment, so you'll only include $8,000. Somebody has 401k, 100% stocks. Again, if you do the 40% method, $4,000, $40,000. Gold jewelry, 22 carat, what's my current market value for it? 18 carat, receivables. So this will all give you your total zakatable assets, right? So that's why everybody, once you make one customized for yourself, then it's easier. The first year it will take you a period of time to think. Oftentimes it happens that we think we have calculated everything, and then, oh, I never thought about this. This is also something I should have included. So make a list for yourself. Once you have the total zakatable asset, in this example is $86,500, then you look at short-term liabilities. I have credit card balance, $500 a year, $100 a year, a lot of mortgage payments, $36,000, just making it a random example. This is not real numbers. Car payments, again, only principal, cannot include interest. then they'll come up with your total liabilities, your short-term liabilities. So you have your zakatable assets minus your total liabilities. In this scenario, it comes to $86,000 minus 43,000. The remaining is 43,900. Now on this 43,900, it's greater than nisab. It's more than both. Then you do 25% or 2.5%, sorry, or divide by 40, and now the zakat is 1,097.5. So we need to do, and there are online calculators available as well, but again they will tell you the categories and then you have to add up those categories. What I like to do is again make your own sheet, you know which accounts, so you don't miss including some accounts that you have because the calculator will not know what accounts you own. There's also a template I made just for myself, like bank account, like a sheet. And like I said, every year I do this personally, and I would suggest everybody do this. I make a tab, 2025, I have it going back, mashallah, a lot of years. And then every year, you just make a copy, and then you already know what gold you have. So this is the same thing, like if you have gold, you might have to take it to a jeweler, or you might have to get the weighing scale to see how much gold I have, and find out what's the market value of 22 karat gold on that day. So if it's 18 karat gold, then it might have a different market value. So you make an asset list, you make your short-term liability list, and that's your assets minus liabilities and zakat. So if somebody has questions, like I said, I am before Salah also we can address them. I have listed the URL for these slides here as well. So if you want to use the QR code, or you can use that URL, that calculator template, again you'll have to customize it for your scenario. So you can use that as well. My number is here. If you want to discuss something that you're not comfortable discussing in a public setting. But yeah, Ali bhai, should we take questions now, or yeah? If somebody has wudu, needs wudu, want to get ready for Salah, please go ahead. But if you have any questions, I can address those, and after Isha also we can address. Ji. The investment property too, because not the property that you plan to resell. That's not that. Yeah, only like rental property, for example. Yeah, so yes, you can include, because again that is also a loan that you have to pay. You cannot choose not to pay that loan. You have to pay that loan. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. And honestly, if you look at any company, every company has some interest-based income, for example, right? So that's why I was saying that AAOFI standards, Mufti Taqi Usmani Sahab has done some research on. They have set up a framework of what it takes to, like the primary business should not be haram. Then how much, like nowadays, a lot of it is companies are running in debt. They don't actually have assets. They have taken a lot of loans. There's a ratio of how much loans you can have. There's a whole criteria list. And if you pass that, and there are websites actually which you can put in a clock symbol and it will tell you whether they qualify or not under the AAOFI standards. And then, but even then, because there is a component of, it might be a very tiny percentage, because there is a purification factor as well, that we should take that out of our profits to make because it's, like I said, there is no company that has zero interest dealings. So that's why some don't invest at all, because they don't want to even have a very minute percentage. But the scholars have given a framework on what it takes to be halal, and then there's a purification factor. There are calculations available, and it could basically be its own session. But if you like, I can share you some URLs separately. So in that, like for example, we will look at what are we getting paid to do for. Let's say somebody is in IT department, company might be doing a lot of other things, but you're getting paid to do IT work for a specific thing. But if you are making a product, let's say somebody is making a product that is going to aid in selling of alcohol, then those things, there are more nuances there on that. But in general, if the work we are getting salary paid for the work we do, the company might have other places they do invest in, but you are not part of it. You only get paid for the work you do. But there is more discussion on this whole topic. whenever you feel like you're not going to get it back anymore, you can stop including it. And when he actually gives you, then that time you can include it. But if you expect, like I was saying earlier, to get it back, then you should include it because it is your asset. You have given them, and this is, like I said, Qard Hasana is truly because there's no personal benefit. You only are helping that brother. And on the other side, there is like sometimes, if we have taken somebody's loan from somebody, like sometimes we have money, but they don't want to pay back. That's actually, there is worries about that as well. But yes, if you have no intent, like you don't feel like it's going to get it back, that's why you only lend that they say, again, this is not from a FIC perspective, but they say in general, personal finance wise, that you lend somebody only that which you will be okay if you don't get back, unless a person is reliable. I know we are very close to Salah time, so inshallah we'll break. But yeah, after Salah, I'm here, inshallah, if you want to ask any questions. My number is here if you want to reach out separately. But Jazakallah khair for the time, and I really appreciate the management as well to give the opportunity to do this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to act upon it.
Is yours? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استووا استووا أقيموا صفوفكم واعتدلوا يرحمني ويرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. وما منع الناس أن يؤمنوا إذ جاءهم الهدى إلا أن قالوا أبعث الله بشرا رسولا قل لو كان في الأرض ملائكة يمشون مطمئنين لنزلنا عليهم من السماء ملكا رسولا قل كفى بالله شهيدا بيني وبينكم إنه كان بعباده خبيرا بصيرا. ومن يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد لهم أولياء من دونه ونحشرهم يوم القيامة على وجوههم عميا وبكما وصما مأواهم جهنم كلما خبت زدناهم سعيرا أولئك جزاؤهم بأنهم كفروا بآياتنا وقالوا أإذا كنا عظاما ورفاتا أإنا لمبعوثون خلقا جديدا أولم يروا أن الله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض قادر على أن يخلق مثلهم وجعل لهم أجلا لا ريب فيه فأبى الظالمون إلا كفورا. قل لو أنتم تملكون خزائن رحمة ربي إذا إذا لأمسكتم خشية الإنفاق وكان الإنسان قتورا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ولقد آتينا موسى 9 آيات بينات فاسأل بني إسرائيل إذ جاءهم فقال له فرعون إني لأظنك يا موسى مسحورا. قال لقد علمت ما أنزل هؤلاء إلا رب السماوات والأرض بصائر وإني لأظنك يا فرعون مثبورا. فأراد أن يستفزهم من الأرض فأغرقناه ومن معه جميعا. وقلنا من بعده لبني إسرائيل اسكنوا الأرض فإذا جاء وعد الآخرة جئنا بكم لفيفا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله. اللهم السلام. اللهم
Jazakumullah khairan, brother Maulana Wasim Millwala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him. Actually, the topic he discussed today about Zakat Simplified. And it is also recorded and posted in our Hamzah channel. If anyone has missed, please join and please take a look at that one, inshallah. That will benefit you. And he will be here after the dua. And anyone has any specific question, you can directly ask him, inshallah.
Inshallah, Salat time will be changing from tomorrow. Salatul Fajr will be at 6:30 and Salatul Isha will be at 8:15, inshallah. Please check the app. If you don't have it, ask Brother Umar to help you to get the app for masjid. You need it for Ramadan also, inshallah. La ilaha. Allah. La ilaha illallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen. نبينا وسيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المسلمين المستضعفين المظلومين في غزة وفي فلسطين وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. اللهم بلغنا رمضان في خير وعافية. اللهم بلغنا رمضان في خير وعافية. اللهم بلغنا رمضان في خير وعافية. اللهم ربنا تقبل. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين. اللهم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله وسلم على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.